Thank you, everybody. We are fairly overwhelmed with the response from this webinar that we just put together in the last 10 days as a precursor for the big masterclass that we're doing next week. And the timing is really great because as we come into Q4, what we are hearing from sales leaders all over the world, New Zealand, Istanbul, India, we do work in 40 countries. We are hearing that the numbers are way down. Now, this is no surprise. We have an uncertain economy and that we really need to pull out our numbers by the end of Q4. And one of the things that I find is today more than ever, we have so much information. There's so many great courses. There's so many good podcasts. And our reps are overloaded with information, but that doesn't do them much good unless they can filter, assimilate, and apply that information to win deals on an ongoing basis. So what we're finding is just because somebody can have access to information doesn't mean they're internalizing it, doesn't mean they can do it. And I can tell you that the numbers are pretty startling that 82% of all training doesn't even stick, yet companies spend billions of dollars on training. Why is that? Well, what I believe, what I know, is we spend an awful lot of time talking about the training process, but not nearly enough time discussing the learning process. Unless we know how people learn, they're not going to be able to retain and use it. And that's why so much of our training falls on deaf ears. Now, I want to give you a little background as to how and why this 4 Pillars program was created. And it was really about 10, 15 years ago. And of course, we've updated it since. But we had a call from one of our biggest clients. Let's call her Maria. Well, that was her name, so we'll call her Maria. For those of you who know Maria Barganot, she called from a huge company, a multi-billion-dollar company. They had been a client of ours, and she said, Shari, we would love to hire you to do a train the trainer course for all our trainers in our company. Well, I'm feeling pretty spiffy about this, feeling very pleased with myself. And then she says, however, before we hire you, we need you to go to a course for 5 days. I said, what do you mean go to a course? I thought you wanted to hire me. She says, well, you need to go to Mike's training course because, well, your training's really good, but it needs some help. It needs to have more interactivity. It needs to involve the participants more. And I think you can learn a lot from Mike and develop a train the trainer course for us. Well, now I'm a little confused. And I said, well, Maria, why don't you just hire Mike? And she said, well, Mike's boring. And you guys aren't. And we love your content. So maybe you can go. Well, I got to tell you, after going to this course for 5 days and inviting my 5 to 10 top trainers, I had a complete epiphany. And what I realized at that moment is, yes, I was training the way I wanted to train, not the way people learn. I would come home every night and tell my husband, you should have seen me today. I was amazing. When in effect, what should have been happening is the participants should have been going home to their significant others and saying, you should have seen me. I was amazing. You see, I loved the sound of my own voice, and I didn't understand the need for all 4 pillars of an effective training and coaching program. Well, we created back then a course called It's Showtime, and I am proud to share with you that since then we have 842 graduates around the world. And as I look here, some of the graduates, Perry, you're here from Europe. We have graduates of the original Showtime course. And it completely changed our business. This course 10x'd our business because we became better trainers and coaches, but more significantly, it increased the numbers of all of our clients all over the world. And that's why we're bringing this to you. Now, we were originally doing this webinar to promote our masterclass. And Fortunately or unfortunately, that masterclass is completely full. You've probably seen on LinkedIn, except for 3 spots. You all know me well enough. I am not into fake urgency. You've seen my posts about that, but we do have 3 spots left. We'll tell you a little bit about it at the end. This is a precursor to that course, which is a 5-week course at 90 minutes that culminates in Las Vegas in our studios. Lots of fun things going on. But even if you don't attend the course, I'm going to be giving you some very valuable information today on how to up your training and coaching skills so that you can hit your numbers by the end of the year. Now, let's go ahead and look at what are these 4 pillars of an effective training program. Now, we do have a quiz, and we're going to give you access to that. In fact, the email that you got today, the confirmation email, has a QR code on it so you can assess your dominant pillar. But let me put it this way. There are 4 pillars of an effective training and coaching program. Like legs of a chair, you need all 4, or your training will fall on deaf ears. Now, we've also found that every person leads with a dominant pillar. So as I go through these, try to think, which pillar do I lead with? And the reason this is so important is since you need all 4, if you lead with one, you may want to partner with somebody else who's really talented at another pillar. That's what we do in our masterclass. And I found that I definitely lead with one of the pillars. And as soon as I started partnering with others, or really incorporating the fact that, oh gosh, you need more of this or that, it changed everything for me. And I want to do the same for you. So really quickly, let's go ahead and look what's in each pillar. We are going to send a review of this. You will get this webinar, but you might want to take a picture of these because there's 3 very, very distinct pillars. Now, the first one is education. When we talk about education, people that lead with the education pillar love content. They love creating content. They love teaching about the tech stack. They love assessment. They're very organized, and they create a culture of learning and development. So that's the education pillar. So you can see how important that is. The second pillar, let me go back. I'm sorry. The second pillar is entertainment. So the entertainer thinks about stories and games and excitement and using the 5 senses. What are people going to see, smell, taste? Do I have competitions? Do I have contests? It's about human connection. Guess which one I lead with? Yes, the entertainment pillar. But what I learned was without facilitation and coaching, the learning doesn't stick. In fact, 70% of all learning occurs in the next 2 pillars. So the next pillar, facilitation, I will say it this way. Nobody believes it when we say it. They believe it when they do it. So is your training full with all kinds of interactive exercises? And not just role plays, pictograms, role plays. We've got some neat ChatGPT tools that we're going to be talking about, or AI tools we're going to be talking about. But is it super interactive? And there's 15 ways you can make your training more interactive. And the use of technology today is amazing. It'll save you a lot of time and really up your game. And then finally, and I don't want to say most importantly, but this moves your needle more than anything if you're trying to hit your quota, is that one-on-one coaching. Because we can train to a group, but unless we understand somebody's inner world, we can't possibly affect their outer world. Are you meeting with your people? We're going to go through an actual coaching methodology that is second to none, that works. And I want you to think about it this way. What if instead of saying, I need to hit quota this year, I need to make my number, what if instead we focused on helping each rep on our team do 10% better? Because with that mentality, you will blow your quota out of the water. So those are the 4 pillars. Now, just for fun, I would like to do a quick poll. And we have a whole assessment, like I said, that you can take. But tell me, based on what I've said, what pillar do you think you lead with? Oh man, a lot of people after my own heart here. Oh, this is interesting. It's always my favorite part. All right, the results are coming in. They're still coming in. We got a lot of people here. All right, awesome. This is just awesome. All right, let's go ahead and show the results, Mal. Let's share the results with everybody. Pretty even. I mean, this is so awesome. So again, you might want to do this assessment with everybody on your team that's in charge of training and enablement. And, we've got mostly entertainers like me. The big one for entertainers is make sure you have a facilitator and a coach on your team. Now, real quickly, I want to go through what are the 3 trends that are making it much harder to train and coach today. And I'd like to hear from you. So if you would, let's go ahead and close out the poll. And if you would put in the chat, why do you think it's harder today? What makes it harder for our sales reps to retain and apply information? What's going on in the world? I'd like to just hear from you if I can. Yeah, beautiful. Bob, attention span? Yeah, that would be true. Too many channels of communication. Maria, great. Maria's attending Showtime. Good to see you, Maria. You're attending our masterclass. Excellent. Easily distracted, too much to do, too much information. Need to meet, little courage to keep working at it. Oh my gosh. There's my friend Steve Felson. Yes, you are right. That is absolutely true. Lack of curiosity, all of these things. No question about it. So it's harder. I've been doing this for 25, 30 years. And here's what we're seeing. Somebody did say information overload. I don't even have that, but let me just give you, I will tell you something. We take in the equivalent. My brother's a neuroscientist. I'm not the smart one. We take in the equivalent of 35 gigabytes worth of content every single day, or 175 newspapers worth of information. So again, it's very hard for our reps to filter, assimilate, and apply that information. Number 2, and somebody said it, I believe, decreased attention span. Because of technology, I mean, everybody wants everything in sound bites. They want 3 to 7 minute video bites. We're a TikTok generation. We're going to talk about that in the entertainment pillar. We're going to talk about what technology can I use to produce videos at scale, blow you away, some of these new AI tools. So decreased attention span. Here's an interesting one, culture over compensation. And I love this, but particularly a younger generation really cares about culture even more than compensation. And I don't know that makes it harder so much as that they're hungrier for great content and learning and growing. And finally, a lot of us are working in a hybrid world still. And there are so many distractions in a hybrid world, it makes it difficult and much more difficult to communicate through the digital divide. And there's a lot of things that we need to do. So when we're training digitally, we need to use things like all types of online tools. And we talk about that a little bit. So are we using Spectrogram? Are we using Zoom rooms? How do you use Zoom rooms? There's so many different things that we need to do to keep the engagement when we're online. So let's go ahead. I am going to give you the quickest overview of these 4 pillars. Like I said, if anybody's interested in the masterclass, that's when we really, really dive in. Shameless self-promotion, I know. The education pillar. Let's talk a little bit about the education pillar. So when we talk about education, what we're talking about is the actual writing of content. And we're talking about making sure that we have learning objectives for what we're doing. Research is showing us that training is much better in bite-sized chunks. So one of the things that we see is that we see when we go into companies, maybe 5 to 7 days of product knowledge. And if you hear nothing else I say today, I want you to hear this. And that is the energy, commitment, and passion you put into the training process will be duplicated by your sellers in the sales process. So how much effort do you put in to having great looking educational materials? How much effort do you put in to having real learning objectives and a real path for the year? We see a lot of people and they just have great onboarding and that's it. But where's the career path? I said culture over compensation. Where's the opportunities for your reps to grow? What happens month 2, month 3? After they've mastered one thing, how do they move on? So this is super important when we're talking about the education pillar. I tell you, one of the most important things I learned from my mentor is that it's better to say a lot about a little than a little about a lot. So again, research is showing us today that we want micro learning, 2-minute, 3-minute types of video lessons and other lessons throughout their life cycle, one concept at a time. That's what we're learning about how people learn. I would say one of the most critical parts of the education pillar is creating a culture of learning and development, which is what I'm talking about, having these learning paths, et cetera. Carol Dweck, you may have heard of her, wrote the book about a growth mindset. And according to Carol Dweck, there's 2 types of people in this world, those with a fixed mindset and those with a growth mindset. And what Carol Dweck tells us is more important than anything, more important than talent, more important than experience. When you are hiring people into your organization, you want people with a growth mindset, people that are coachable. Why? Because the world is changing so quickly. You can recognize people with a fixed mindset. People with a fixed mindset feel like their skills are set in stone. They're set in birth. They're people that say things like, I'm not good in math. I'm not good at names. Oh, I love this one today. I'm not good at technology. Get good at technology. You better. We have a lot we need to learn. Get good at AI. It'll save you a lot of time. And so what she's saying is that if you have a growth mindset, those are the types of people that you need to hire. One interesting thing that I'm going to get to when it comes to hiring in just a moment. Now, how do you get a growth mindset? Well, it's not like you can go to the growth mindset store. So what we developed at Levitin Group is something called the growth equation. So what's the growth equation? When you're looking at hiring and you're looking at training, when we're talking about the education pillar, we need people that are genuinely curious. Curiosity is the precursor to knowledge. I heard something great on a podcast the other day. I just want to share with you. A gentleman was interviewing for a job. He was a tech guy. He didn't have a lot of experience in sales, but he thought he could be pretty good at it. So he's gone through 1 interview, 2 interviews, and in the final interview, he was asked a question that was very strange. That question was, have you ever been bit by a dog? Well, he couldn't figure this out. He didn't say anything, and he said no. Well, a couple of days later, he was told that he didn't get the job. Well, the guy is completely confused. He can't stand it. So he calls the interviewer back. He says, I understand I didn't get the job, but something's been bugging me. Why did you ask if I'd ever gotten bit by a dog? I'm just curious. And the interviewer said, you're hired. That was a test for curiosity. Are you curious enough? And do you have the courage enough to ask why I asked that question? So you want to hire for curiosity. Super, super important. Next, we need to hire people that will take responsibility for their successes as well as their failures. This is part of that education pillar because we can't train people if we don't have the right people and if we don't build the right culture. My boss told me a long time ago, change the pronoun. Not the kind of pronouns we're thinking of today. What he was saying is, you've got to take responsibility and stop saying they didn't buy because they couldn't afford it. And instead say they didn't buy because I didn't show them the value. So really having a growth mindset necessitates taking responsibility when we make a deal and then asking what we could have done better when we don't. And finally, as we look at the growth equation, the idea is to help our reps get to a state of what we call unconscious mastery. What's unconscious mastery? Well, unconscious mastery means that our reps know the material so well, and I'm talking about sales skills, not just product knowledge. They know their discovery. They know how to overcome objections. They know their sales stories so well that they can do it without thinking about it. Really quickly, I want to end this little segment with a quick story. Years ago, my husband, when we first started dating, invited me to go to the symphony. And I'm not very sophisticated. I am not crazy about the symphony, but I thought I'll go. It's date night. Well, we get there. I'm wishing I was at an Adele concert. We get there, and the soloist gets on the stage. He picks up the violin and he starts playing. And I'm not kidding you. I felt every emotion a person could feel. I felt laughter. I felt jealousy. I felt tense. I felt in love. He's creating all these emotions in me, a soloist with a violin. Now, I can tell you, this soloist wasn't thinking, do I need to play a B flat? He had reached unconscious mastery. He knew his music, his notes, and his instruments so well that he could create emotion in the audience without ever missing a beat. Ladies and gentlemen, our sellers need to know our content and our sales training so well that they can open their hearts to the customers that are in front of them. That's the education pillar. That's unconscious mastery. And that requires creating a culture of learning and development. Next, entertainment. Now, yeah, that was fun. You know I'm into the music. All right. So what is the entertainment pillar? The entertainment pillar is just that. Now, really quickly, I'd like you to go ahead and write in the chat, if you will, when you were a little kid, and this is going to show your age, how did you learn your ABCs? Go ahead and write that in the chat for me, everyone. I can see the chat right there. Singing, sang the song. Love that. Sang the song. Sing it, baby. ABC song, school rhyme. You're showing your age, some of you. I need a Gen Zer here. I need a Gen Xer here. ABC song. All right, different question. How are your kids learning their ABCs? Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Molly. TikTok, Sesame Street, that's right. So here's the point. When I was a little kid, I learned my ABCs through a song. I still don't know what that NLLOP letter means, but I learned it from a song. Today, our kids, they're learning it from TikTok. They're learning it from apps. They're learning it from baby, what's his name, Einstein, all different types of things that are entertaining as all get out. The point is, from the moment our children get to the kindergarten steps, they're saying, entertain me. In fact, they associate education with entertainment. Think about it. We are in a culture today where we need to be constantly entertained. And this is important because I will tell you, if your training isn't as interesting as your rep's cell phone, they're going to check out, and we're going to get that ATEM right off my screen there. And so they will just check out. And so what are we doing to captivate them? And when I talk about entertainment, I am not just talking about magic tricks, playing the ukulele, although I know a lot of trainers that do that, and that's really cool. I am talking about what I call the 3 E's. emotional connection. I am talking about using the 5 senses. I am talking about making them feel safe to share with others and creating an environment with games and fun and all types of contests. Now, I'm going to give you a quick hack right now because it's amazing. There is a new AI tool that will change your life, and that's called Cast Magic. So for those of you that are making videos, and in the masterclass, we're going to be using all of these different AI tools and making videos, talking about how to make great videos. Cast Magic is amazing because if you have a 20-minute video, even a 45-minute video, you can upload it into Cast Magic. It'll not only give you a perfect transcription of your video, it will show you where to make cuts and even help you write test questions at the end. I mean, we've got to start using these AI tools. We've got to have a growth mindset in order to do that. I would say the biggest thing in the entertainment pillar, besides stories, storytelling, super important, metaphors, analogies, we're going to be talking about a lot of different online games that you can use that are super fun. But think in terms of the 5 senses. That's the way we take in information, is through our 5 senses. And as humans, we focus mostly on the sense of sight. I just had the opportunity to go to Africa. It was a trip of a lifetime. And one of the interesting things I learned is each animal leads with a different sense. Some animals don't even have a sense of sight. Elephants, dogs, and ants lead with a sense of smell. I was going to say they see the world through smell, but that's a very human way of saying it. They sniff the world. And humans, some humans have more need to smell things and to hear things than others. We all learn differently. That's why we have to incorporate the 5 senses into everything we do. You can even do this online. There are ways we can send participants food in advance. Are you using music? What do they feel? What do they experience? Ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you this, the #1 differentiator for a salesperson today is how they make the customer feel. It's guest experience. Companies know this. But what happens in the training process will be duplicated in the sales process. So stop and ask yourself this question. Am I creating a great experience for my sellers? What will they see? What will they touch? What will they smell? All of these senses are hugely important. Years ago, there was an article in the New York Times, you can look it up, about an elevator operator in New York City. His name was Bruce Renfro. And Bruce Renfro, as an elevator operator, got to see a lot of New Yorkers. And if you're from New York, sorry New Yorkers, you know, people get into an elevator, they don't talk a whole lot. Well, Bruce was kind of a social guy and kind of an interesting elevator operator. So he decided one day that what he was going to do is put pictures of what was on his bucket list, something that he wanted to aspire to. And he put pictures of beautiful China. Well, the next day, one of the elevator riders came in and said, "What's that?" He told him. And the elevator rider the next day brought in a picture of his bucket list. He brought in a picture of a racehorse. Well, pretty soon, all of the people riding in the elevator started bringing pictures of what they wanted. Well, then Bruce got another idea. He loves jazz. And this was a while ago, so he brought in a CD player and brought in a CD of Miles Davis. So when you went in the elevator, you could jazz out and rock out to Miles Davis. Well, pretty soon, more and more people are curious about what's going on in this elevator. Well, then he got an idea to bring in fresh flowers, because why wouldn't he have a nice smell? And then he thought, you know, there's a lot of less fortunate people here. I'm going to start bringing in canned goods and feeding the poor. And what happened is his patrons followed suit. And pretty soon he was giving hundreds of canned goods away. And finally, when people got off the elevator, he decided to read them a psalm. Well, I can tell you this elevator got so much attention, people would change their route and go to a completely different subway just so they could see Bruce Renfro's elevator. Now, one day the authorities were coming. And the top authority said, Bruce, you better take everything down. The authorities are coming. It's not regulation. So Bruce took everything down off the walls. Well, that next day, when the people came to ride in the elevator and everything was gone, they said, what happened? What happened? He said, oh, I had to take it down. The authorities said so. Well, a few of the people marched down to the authorities and said, hey, listen, those things in Bruce Renfro's elevator were the highlight of our day. And he was able to put them all back. Now, I tell you that story because if Bruce Renfro can change the emotional state of participants or of people riding an elevator in a 10 by 10 box, imagine what we can do with all the tools that are available to us to create an entertaining 5 senses experience for our sellers. And that's what we need to do. Next, the facilitation pillar. Okay, the facilitation pillar is marked with the saying, there is way more knowledge in front of you than is in front of me. This is about working together as a team, role plays, interactivities. Years ago, I had a gentleman named Joe who used to work for me, and I remember we were doing a big training in Cabo San Lucas. He called me, he was sick. He said, Shari, I don't know what to do. I've got a terrible cold. I'm not going to be able to do the training very well tomorrow, and I've got to write an entire skills test. I'm going to be up all night writing the test. Well, at the time, we were working on the Showtime content. And that's when I told him, I said, Joe, I have an idea. Rather than staying up all night and making your cold worse, why don't you go in tomorrow and have the participants create the test questions and make a game out of it? He says, well, that's an interesting idea. Okay, I'll try it. The next day he called me so excited, no more sniffle. He said, that was the best training I ever did, Shari. They had a ball. I had 50 people in class. Everyone wrote 2 questions. It integrated better. They understood it better. And they had a great time. When we talk about the facilitation pillar, what we're talking about is your training should consist of 70-30. That's right. Particularly online. Live, maybe 60-40. Participants need to be doing case studies, role plays. They need to be integrating it into their own world. That's when the training takes place. At our masterclass, we are going to give you, count them, 18 ways to make your trainings more interactive. We do group exercises where we put people into groups, we do contests, and we have seen everything come back from rap songs about the stages of the sales process. We have seen models built about how to do discovery. The more creative, the more hands-on, the more 5 senses they all integrate, the better they're going to retain it. Because here's the bottom line, and this is a myth that people don't understand. People don't learn by listening. People retain 10% of what they hear, 50% of what they see and hear, and get this, 90% of what they say and do. This is what takes a lot of work because it takes building training materials that have interactivity in them. It's not just about us standing up like I used to do and talking about a concept. And if your training is falling on deaf ears, my guess is it's not interactive enough. Oh, sure, you can say you do a role play, but is that enough? When you tell somebody to watch an online learning, do you then tell them to write up what are the 5 most important things you learned and what are you going to do about it? When you have a list of the 10 attributes of a good coach or of somebody who is a good prospector, do you say read the list or do you say circle the ones that you're best at and talk in a group of the ones you need help at? There are so many ways to bring your training to life. And there's some ChatGPT hacks that I'm going to show you that will help you create the interactivity once you upload what the exercise is. It's pretty incredible. We're also going to be sharing exercises. So at the end of the course, you are going to have access to 50 interactive exercises already created for you on every possible part of the sales process, because we're finding a lot of times people just don't have time to create materials. So don't forget, people forget unless it's completely interactive. Next, let's go ahead and look at how we need to make this interactive enough and use different learning styles. So some people learn kinesthetically, some people learn visually. This gets back to that entertainment pillar, and it's super important. There's also another tool I want to talk to you about that is amazing. I haven't used it yet, just heard about it. It's called Pictory. You might want to look it up. What it enables you to do is to take text, upload the text, and it converts it to video with voice for you. It's an editing tool. Sounds amazing. I'm going to start playing with it this week in preparation for the show. But again, I promised I'd give you some hacks today, whether you attend our class or not. I'd love to hear from you. How are you using Pictory? This can save a lot of time. And finally, the last pillar, the coaching pillar. As I said at the beginning, when we talk about education, entertainment, and facilitation, what we're talking about is training more in a group setting. But here's the thing. Real growth happens when we have one-on-one relationships with our people. And most people don't really know or have a methodology for how to coach. It's not just about, did you hit your numbers? It's about really getting to know them and getting to know you questions, understanding who they are. Are you asking them questions like, if you had a billboard for all the world to see, what would it say? What's the best way for me to coach you if you don't finish your work? It's about having rubrics so that they know what they're being coached on. But most importantly, as I said before, it's understanding what matters to them, understanding what motivates them. And let me tell you, according to Gallup, money is number 15th on a list. If you don't know each rep's inner world, you can't possibly affect their outer world. And that is the coaching pillar. And there are many coaching methodologies. We're going to go through one that has been life-changing for many, many organizations. So real quickly, as I change there we go. Here's just some of the folks that we've worked with on the 4 pillars in various different ways. Like I said, if you're interested in attending this masterclass, we literally have 3 spots left. We have 1 spot left for alumni. We do have 5 alumni. We have changed this course and beefed it up so much. It's 5 90-minute live virtual segments. You can only miss 1. The group that we have assembled is incredible and varied. You will learn as much from each other as you will from me. We have an incredible workbook attached. There's going to be a lot of different exercises and, oh, get this, access to some of Levitin Group's best content for an entire year. Why? Because building interactive exercises isn't for the faint of heart. It's our day job. It's what we do. So if you like the videos we have on LinkedIn, what if you had interactive exercises for 52 of those? What if you had access to some of our most popular courses that you could show as a trainer? And finally, what if you got to go to Las Vegas, Nevada in the spring and work in our studio on camera with my speaking coach, Lee Eisler, who literally trains TED speakers. So if you're interested, what we're going to recommend you do, just fill out a form. It is by invitation only. We want to make sure that we've got the right people in the group that are going to fit in. We've got 3 slots left. We're sure those will be filled in the next 48 hours. Again, you can't sign up for it right now. You can't pay for it right now. What we're going to do is we're going to go through all of the applications, and a couple of things we're looking for. We're looking for people that have a lot of deep business experience. We're looking for people who might have some familiarity with our content. We're looking for people who are referred by other people that are already in the course. And it's probably good if you have at least 5 people that you're training or managing. So if you'd like to get one of those last 3 seats, go ahead, go to our landing page, fill it out. One of our representatives will get back with you. Also, go ahead and take that 4 pillars quiz, and you'll get, whether you want to go to the masterclass or not, I'd love you all to have our free manual that goes over everything that we just talked about. Please use that as a tool and let us know how the 4 pillars are going for you. And I want to end with this quote, and that is this: the only thing worse than training your employees and having them leave is not training them and having them stay. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for attending. And we are going to draw 3 names, and I am going to personally do 3 30-minute free, absolutely free, and I don't do coaching, 3 coaching segments with you about your training program, or if you just want some coaching on sales, no problem. Molly, are you ready to draw some winners?
I am. We have our winners available. Each one of you will get 1 30-minute session with Shari to coach. So our winners are Kelly Marooney, Fred Vongelweed, and Christoph Proten. So I will be emailing you all separately to set up the time, a time to work with Shari individually. So congratulations, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, everybody. And there will be a replay of this. Thank you so much for showing up.